Chapter 7. Why Hard Work Isn't Enough. When I was young, I believed that life rewarded the hardest worker. It seemed obvious. My parents worked hard. The farmers in the countryside worked hard. The fishermen rose before sunrise. The teachers stayed late preparing lessons. The mother never seemed to stop moving. They cooked before dawn, cared for their children all day, and quietly finished household chores long after everyone else had gone to sleep. Her work was almost sacred. No one questioned it. Neither did I. As an immigrant arriving in America with almost nothing, I carry that belief with me like a treasure, family heirloom. I thought if I simply worked harder than everyone else, life would eventually open every door. So I worked. I worked because I was grateful. I worked because I was afraid. I worked because I wanted to prove that the country which had welcomed me had not made a mistake. I worked because I wanted my children to have opportunities I never had. Looking back now, I realize those reasons were very different, although at the time they all felt the same. Many years later, one quiet afternoon, I was sitting alone in my garden. The grandchildren had gone home. The breeze gently moved through the leaves of the jacaranda tree, and somewhere a small bird kept singing the same cheerful melody. I watched a line of ants carrying pieces of leaves much larger than themselves. They never stopped, back and forth, hour after hour. They were certainly working hard. Then my eyes wandered toward one of my epiphylium plants. For months, it had done almost nothing. At least that was how it appeared. No flowers, no excitement, just green stumps quietly reaching toward the morning light. If someone judged only by appearances, they would probably say the ants were far more productive than the cactus. But nature measures success differently. The ants were busy surviving today. The cactus was preparing for a season that had not yet arrived. One morning, almost overnight, dozens of magnificent flowers appeared. The garden was transformed. It looked effortless. Yet I knew those blossoms had been quietly prepared for months, hidden from my eyes. That morning, I asked myself a question. How often do we live like the ants, constantly moving, constantly carrying burdens, yet never asking whether we are moving toward the life we truly want? The question stayed with me for many days. When I read Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist whose understanding of the human soul was far ahead of his time, he once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." At first, I admired the sentence because it sounded profound. It took me years to understand what he actually meant. Jung was saying that much of our life is driven by invisible forces we never stop to examine. We think we are making choices. Often we are simply obeying own stories. Stories we learned as children. Stories we never realized were still living inside us. One child grows up hearing, "You must always be the best." Another hears, Money is difficult. Another quietly believes I must earn love. These invisible beliefs become silent passengers inside every adult decision. They choose careers, they influence relationships, they even determine how hard we believe we must struggle. The strange part is this: we rarely notice them. We simply call them our personality. I remember a woman I once knew. She was one of the hardest workers I had ever met. She left home before sunrise, returned after dark, worked weekends, never complained. Everyone admired her. One day, someone asked her, "When will you finally slow down?" She smiled and answered, "After I have enough." It sounded reasonable. 10 years later, she gave exactly the same answer. 20 years later, nothing had changed except the color of her hair. One afternoon, she quietly admitted something that surprised me. "I don't even know what enough means." That sentence stayed with me. She wasn't chasing money anymore. Money had become an excuse for chasing something else: security, approval, maybe even peace. She worked harder each year because she believed the next achievement would finally allow her to rest. But the finish line kept moving further away. Carl Jung might have gently asked her, who is doing the running, the successful businesswoman or the frightened little girl who once believed she has to prove her worth? Sometimes we think we are pursuing success. In reality, we are running away from own fears. The destination is different. The exhaustion feels the same. As I grew older, I began noticing something interesting. Some of the happiest people I met were not the busiest, and some of the busiest people I met were not happy. This confused me because I have always believed the two belong together. Then I remember something Viktor Frank wrote after surviving one of history's darkest chapters. He observed that people can survive almost any hardship if they know why they are enduring it. Purpose changes everything. The same work can either drain the soul or nourish it. A mother staying awake all night with her sick child is exhausted, yet love gives her strength. A young entrepreneur building something meaningful often works 16 hours without complaining. Purpose supplies energy the clock cannot measure. Hard work without purpose slowly empties the heart. Hard work with purpose somehow fills it. There is another lesson my garden continues to teach me every year. The bamboo never competes with the rose. The rose never envies with the fruit tree. Each quietly becomes what it was created to become. Only human beings spend so much energy trying to become someone else. We compare careers, we compare houses, we compare titles. Someone else receives a promotion, someone else buys a larger home, someone else appears more successful. Without realizing it, we begin climbing a mountain we never wanted to climb. Years later, we wonder why the view does not satisfy us. The philosopher Socrates encouraged people who know thyself, such simple words. Yet Perhaps they contain one of life's greatest secrets. Most people know their profession better than they know themselves. They know how to earn money. They do not know what truly brings them peace. They know how to impress strangers. They do not know what makes their own soul quietly smile. One afternoon, while pruning my roses, I accidentally cut away the branch filled with unopened buds. For a moment, I felt disappointed. Then I noticed something. The plant did not resist. It simply directed its energy toward the branches that remained. By the following spring, it bloomed even more beautifully. Nature never wasted energy trying to recover yesterday. It simply continues growing today. Perhaps this is wisdom, not working harder, but working with greater awareness. Not asking, how much more can I do? But asking, is what I'm doing still leading me toward the person I wish to become? As I sit here today, watching another evening settle over the garden, I no longer admire people simply because they are busy. I admire those whose lives possess quiet harmony. Their work reflects their values. Their success does not cost them their health. Their ambition does not steal their kindness. Their achievements do not separate them from the people they love. They still work hard, very hard, but there is something different about them. They are no longer pushing life uphill. They are walking in the same direction as their own heart. Perhaps that is what Carl Jung was trying to teach all along. The greatest journey is not towards success, it is toward becoming conscious. Because once we truly know ourselves, our work is no longer a desperate attempt to prove our worth. It becomes a joyful expression of who we have already become. And when your heart, your mind, and your purpose begin walking together, life has a curious way of opening doors that endless struggle never could. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the video. Please click like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.